Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is the video for my third week wrap up, and I thought I would follow up my Facebook post with this video that I've been trying to do on a weekly basis. So for this week I read 14 books, and when I say this week, I do my weeks from Saturday to the from Sunday to the following Saturday. Now I know a lot of people do Friday reads, which means that I would say start on Saturday and end on Friday and then make a video that Friday night, but I like to do it this way, and it's been working for me, so that's what you got. So let me tell you what I read. 14 books, 8 of them were ebooks and 6 of them were audiobooks, and I'll tell you why I read so many audiobooks this time around, or listened to, read, ingested, absorbed, whatever you want to use. So to get 14 books, to have read 14 books, I now brought my monthly reads up to 41 for the month of September so far. With another 11 or so days, I'll probably get another 20 more books in, but at this rate it's at 41 books. And this is bringing me to 536 books for the year so far. Now my Goodreads goal is 500, and First I was going to up it, then I was going to leave it the same. Now I'm thinking about raising it again, and I talked about it in my mid-month wrap-up that I might raise it to 725. I haven't quite bit the bullet on that yet, but it's most likely going to be raised. Now, I also tabulated how many pages I read for the past week, and that was 4,911 pages, and if you divide that by 14 books, it averages to 350 pages per book. I decided to start using page numbers in my weekly wrap-ups. Now I always use the number of pages in my monthly wrap-up, but I decided to use them in my weekly wrap-up because invariably 1 or 2 or more responses every week on the various Facebook groups, I get accused or called for reading children's books or picture books to come up with numbers like 50, 60, 70 books a month. So I thought, let me go ahead and show you how many pages I read, what they average, so that you have an idea that I'm reading full books on a daily / weekly / monthly / yearly basis. So that's that. Now, my focus this week changed a little bit because I was talking to somebody on Messenger who absolutely loves the Judi Robb InDepth books as much as I do. And I knew all along that the September release, which was Shadows in Death, was imminent to be released before September hit, but I never quite finished the reading the books in order, which includes from book number 1 all the way through, including every novella before September 8th. So September 8th came and went, Shadows in Death was released, and I couldn't read it. So I decided this past week to catch up, and in order to catch up I had to read 5 books, and then I could read Shadows in Death, and then I moved on to Faithless in Death, which doesn't come out until February. So now I am 100% completely caught up with the InDepth books. I will probably start listening to them again from the very first book. I know I said last week that it was Glory in Death, but I believe book number 1 is Naked in Death. So now that makes up a portion of the audiobooks that I listened to this week. I did not review all of these books. As a matter of fact, I only reviewed, I believe it was Connections in Death for Edelweiss. I think I may have even put that one on my blog. I want to review more of these, but Blogger was putting in strange character spacing and paragraph spacing, and I got frustrated. So I wrote it in my planner what other in-depth books I need to review. So I will, but I figured out how to overcome those paragraph breaks and character breaks in Blogger. So now I'll go ahead and get those reviews up. So those would be my highlights for the week, is the 7 in-depth books that I read. And let me tell you, did I say which ones I read? let me see if I wrote down all 7 of them. Oh, I believe it was 6 or 7. It was Dark in Death, Leverage in Death, Connections in Death, Vendetta in Death, Golden in Death, Shadows in Death, and Faithless in Death. So on my Facebook post, I said 6, but it was 7. So I read all of those. They were all really good. But if I had to choose from those 7, not from the entire series, but from those 7, it would be Shadows in Death that blew my mind, and that would be my favorite of all of them. But just for this week, like I said, not the overall series. So like I said, I'm gonna go back to book 1 and do rereads all the way through. I won't pressure myself to get 4 or 5 books read a month anymore, because there's other long series that I'm embarking on. One is I read, and I'll tell you about that again in a few moments, but I read I think the first 5 books in the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Evanovich. So I want to get those read. What is her name? There's another author that I just found out that Allison Brennan. I think the book I have is, okay, I can't think of the Allison Brennan book I have, but I got an Allison Brennan book from NetGalley, and it's book number 16. So I want to read that series. And then there's Laura Childs. She has a cozy mystery series. I want to read that series. So the Allison Brennan book has at least 16 books in it, because I got book 16, and then the Laura Childs book has 20 or 25 books in there. I'm also reading the Joanna Fluke series. I can't call her name right now because it's Hannah Swenson. It's been a minute since I've had a chance to read those, so I don't know how many in-depth books I'm going to be able to reread right now, because I want to get those 3 long series read. So that's what got me moving in the month of in this 3rd week with regard to finishing a series. But it was also a good week because I completed a jigsaw puzzle, and I'm a New Englander, so I had a collage puzzle that I did, and maybe I'll put up a screenshot of the puzzle. So I did that, got to look at a bunch of New England sites, because I'm homebound, so I don't see any of these sites in person. And then I started a new jigsaw puzzle, one that's kind of a challenge, but I made a lot of progress with it yesterday. I also started coloring again, which is something that I absolutely used to love. I colored over 900 pictures, and then I experienced some things that led to a deep depression, so I stopped coloring altogether. Well, now I'm coloring again, a little bit at a time, and so that was part of my week as well. So let me tell you, okay, so I told you about the in-depth books. I don't know if I'm going to throw up screenshots for those, but if I don't, you can just listen to this again, and in the description box below, I will list the 14 books that I read, so that you know what in-depth books I read. Now, another book that I read, which of the week, this is the standout book. Remember, Shadows in Death was the standout book for the 7 in-depth books I read, but for the week it was An Eye for an Eye by Carol Wyer. Now, An Eye for an Eye is the first book in the Detective Kate Young series. I can't post my review publicly yet because it's not ready to be released as far as say Goodreads and Twitter and Instagram, but the review is on NetGalley. But let me tell you, I love her Robin Carter series, and I also loved her Natalie Ward series. Her Natalie Ward series is one of the best series that I have read, but that's come to a close, at least for now. And now she introduced Detective Inspector Kate Young. I really, really loved this book. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. Kate Young experienced unspeakable horror, and therefore she developed a case of PTSD, pure anxiety, and had to go on leave from her job. Her boss comes to her and says, will you come back to work? There's a case, we need your expertise. And she embarks on that case. Great book. That's all I can tell you. When I can say more about it, I will. Okay. Then on NetGalley, I got The Lost Boys by Faye Kellerman for review. Now, years ago, I read the Peter Decker / Rita Lazarus series, maybe 7, 8, or 9 books, but then I just stopped. I did buy the next 5 in that series on Audible, but I think to catch up to The Lost Boys, I need to read 16 in all. Of those 16, I've read 2, one 2 weeks ago and one this past week, and I will get at least 4 books read every month in the Decker / Lazarus series, so that by January I will be ready to read the review title, which is The Lost Boys. So for this week that we're speaking of, the book was called Serpents Tooth. It was really, really, really good. Obviously, Peter Decker is a detective. His wife's name is Rena, R-I-N-A, Rena Lazarus. And Peter has a case trying to get behind what happened that caused a mass shooting. I believe there were 13 or 14 victims. And as he gets behind that case, he gets accused of something. And this could really upset the balance of his wonderful, happy marriage to Rena and to his family. Also, another character in Serpent's Tooth is his daughter, Cindy. I love the way Peter handles himself. I love his humanness, and I love his honesty, and I love his faithfulness. So Serpent's Tooth was really a good book. Rena is a great character. She pretty much plays second fiddle to Peter Lazarus in these series. In these books in this series, but she's a super, super strong supporting character, and there have been stories that focus more on Rena, but this one was more focused on Peter. Okay, so let's see what's next. The next book in that series, by the way, is Jupiter's Bones, and I should be reading that by, say, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, of this coming week. And I mentioned earlier that I'm reading the Stephanie Plum series by Evanovich. So that book that I read this past week was called HighFive. It was really enjoyable. And basically, Stephanie has a skip that she's trying to chase, but there's a time frame on it. And she needs a little bit more money in her pocket to pay her bills or whatever. So she takes on a side job. Well, this side job has pitfalls and dangers that she didn't expect. So it was kind of fun to see her going through this and going through cars. Stephanie does not have good success with cars. It was funny, a nice little mystery in there, nice little side stories in there, great characters, and now I'm really looking forward to the next book, which is called Hot 6. Then I read Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. It's a Gothic book, okay? A woman gets a request from her father to go see about her cousin in Mexico City. She goes, and it's kind of like a mansion. It's a creepy Gothic, people in the walls. It looks like her cousin is being drugged. After a while, she feels like she's being drugged. I wasn't crazy about this book. I gave it 3 stars. If I actually write a review on this book, I might even go down a star and give it 2. But that was Mexican Gothic. Now, and by the way, my notes here say that it was rather bizarre. So I guess I'll let you know how I feel about. I'll let you know that that's how I felt about that. Then I read Under Violent Skies by Judi Daykin. I have that for an upcoming blog tour, and I actually had a chance to write the review for that. And like I said, my reviews are a little bit behind because Blogger has changed and the legacy Blogger is being phased out, and I was having a little bit of technical difficulties with the new Blogger. But I've got Under Violent Skies reviewed, and basically it's about a murder that took place in a farming community. And there's a woman named Detective Sergeant named Sarah Hurst who just started a new job. Now, she's a black woman in a mostly white environment, so from day one she experiences sexism and racism. And she even has to deal with hazing in her new job. So it's clear to see that jealousy is a factor in her new position in this police station. So as she takes the job, she finds out that some parts of it, the case, not the job, as she's starting to investigate the case that she's working with, she begins to see it tie into her father, and the fact that she never knew her father comes into play, and everything does come together. So I thought it was a good book. It's a debut novel by Judi Daykin. I'm not really clear on whether or not it's going to be part of a series, but if it does, Sarah is a good character, somebody easy to relate to, and I would like to see how she survives in this, how can I say, I want to say rough environment, with the sexism and the racism. I'd like to see how she does in that. So hopefully this will be a series. And this was from HighFive Books, and I got it from NetGalley. Then I listened to an audiobook for review, which was called The Birds That Stay by Lambert. I gave that a 4-star review, and I also already wrote the review on that one. And here, this is the first book in a new series. I'm pretty sure it is. And it's Chief Inspector of Homicide Romeo LeDuc and Marie Russell. And they're both in their 50s, which is a bonus for me because I'm soon to be 60. So it's nice to read older characters. And in cozy mystery fashion, Marie Russell, who is a divorced mother of 2, by the way, works along with Romeo in order to solve a murder. So it's not a cozy mystery, but there is a laywoman, so to speak, who helps a detective solve a murder. It was written in a very lyrical fashion, and was these descriptions of the Laurentian Mountains in Montreal, great character development, and it was a really good book. As I mentioned, I got it as an audiobook, but what I liked about it, it was narrated by the author, and she obviously is French Canadian because she used certain words and phrases in French. And I took 3 years of French in high school, so it was really cool to hear her refer to certain things in French, and that only helped to pique my interest when I was listening to this book. Now, even though it's business first between the two protagonists, Romeo and Marie, I can just see something brewing between them. And as the series develops, no doubt that situation will develop. This was by means of EC Press Audio that I want to thank for this, as well as NetGalley for that book. And then, believe it or not, I am coming to a close because my notes are out of order. So I guess I will talk about Faithless by Fern Michaels as I work to reorder my notes. Faithless was about a woman who, and she's like a YouTube influencer, richer than rich, but she goes on a singles cruise. She's a single mother of a 13-year-old girl. She's a widow, and she goes on this singles cruise. She meets a guy. She wakes up the next day and realizes that she slept with him, and so she panics because along the way, she talks about her anxiety and a trank. I can't think of the particular medicine she takes every time she's about to have an anxiety attack. So she wonders if she mixed alcohol with the anxiety medication, which made her act out of character with the stranger that she met on the ship. So she reaches her assistant and says, "Get me off of the ship and get me back home." So when the ship is docked, she's able to get first class a ticket, flies back home, and thinks that her life is just going to go on. Well, not so. The guy that she met on the ship is all of a sudden in her life, in her face, including the fact that he has 2 teenagers, and they play a role as to what happens going forward. It's definitely not a romance. I'm still organizing my notes, but I think I'm at the last book. It's definitely not a romance. As a matter of fact, it's turns into that's the last one. So I'm going to move my sheets. Sorry about all that rustling of papers. Please forgive me for that. I printed them, and I think going forward I will put page numbers on them so I don't do this again. Anyway, she comes home from the cruise. Now the guy and his teen children are in her life. Things happen in this book, which not obviously by the name Faithless, you could tell that it's not a romance, but I thought there might be more of a romantic edge, but it was more of a thriller edge. The story was the pacing was okay. I might give it 4 stars, maybe even 3. The pacing was okay, and then the ending got kind of smashed together just like this. So you have very slow pacing all the way through the book, and then you have the ending. And it was that ending and that epilogue and that last chapter in that epilogue that may make me drop the book down to 3 stars. And I love Fern Michaels, so I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that I didn't get more of a positive reaction after finishing that book. I think that if the pacing had picked up in the beginning of the book and then the ending was drawn out a little bit better, then I could easily go 4 stars, but it's probably going to be a 3-star book. So anyway, that's everything that I read during this 3rd week. Believe it or not, well, I guess you know me by now. I've already started my next book, which is Thursday's Bride by Patricia Johns. That will be my first book for the 4th week of September. All right, that's it. I will edit this video to include whatever book covers or screenshots I want to bring in, and I will get this video up there. Thank you and goodbye.